Hockey, Inside Out, presented to you by the Montreal Gazette.
Welcome to the HIO Hockey Show. I'm Pat Hickey, sports columnist and hockey writer for the Gazette, filling in for Stu Cowan, who's got a lower body injury. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, we have Mike Boone, the ultimate blogger. We have Jack Todd, the Monday morning quarterback, and we have Knuckles Nyland. We'll start off with the Canadiens' problem with the Tampa Bay Lightning. 0-5 this season. It's the worst showing they've had against one team since 1983, 1984. They were 0-8 that year against the Buffalo Sabres, and I believe Chris Nyland was on that team.
Yeah, I was, unfortunately, but you go through those times. But, you know, looking at this Canadiens team against Tampa Bay, they, you know, sweeping them out of the playoffs last year. Tampa Bay didn't have their number one goaltender, and their backup goaltender didn't do what the Canadiens' backup goaltender did in the Rangers series, which is played pretty well. And then, you know, you got Stamkos coming off an injury. This year, this team comes out, they want to avenge that sweep of the Montreal Canadiens gave them last year, and they made some changes. And I think this coach, John Cooper, who, by the way, is a good coach, just like Max Pacioretty said, they're a well-coached team. And, you know, I think he made it imperative for his team to come out this year and let's make a statement against this Montreal Canadiens hockey team. And they prepared. Alex Cologne said they watched more tape on Montreal than any other team. So they were really prepared, and they made it their mission to do this.
It almost seems to me, though, like they're obsessed with Montreal, a little bit like the Bruins are obsessed with Montreal. And they don't have to play Montreal in the first round. Great, so you're ready to play a team that you may not have to face at all, and they suck against Boston. They go in and lose to the Leafs. I mean, I don't think the Quebec Ramparts could lose to the Leafs this season.
Yeah, but it was a letdown. They had 41 shots against the Leafs.
And you know they must have went out the other night after the game here in Montreal and ripped it up.
The trick is to get them to go out before the game in Montreal. Why do we have Shea Paré if you're not going to get the team out there on the night before?
I just think the Canadiens match up badly against them, and I'd like to avoid them in the first. Well, I think it's impossible to play them in the first round mathematically.
It is impossible for them to play. I see the ideal scenario for me would be to have the Canadiens play, say, the Bruins in the first round, or actually have Tampa play the Bruins in the first round, lose to the Bruins, the Canadiens beat Detroit, and then the Canadiens beat the Bruins in the division final.
Not so easy, though.
It's not so easy.
I think the Canadiens are going to, you know, I'm worried, like talking to Mike about the Canadiens in the first round. Listen, Carey Price can steal some games, but can he steal a series against a team like Boston, a team like Detroit? I worry about them if they don't get their game together. There's some holes in their game right now.
I'm really interested to see how they do against Washington. And there's another little subplot going on there, too, with Ovechkin and Price for who's going to win the Hart Trophy. Because there's some sentiment. Even Bob McKenzie was saying yesterday that he doesn't know how he's going to vote. And the thing with Ovechkin, he's 10 goals up on anybody else while playing the most defensive game he's ever played in his life and being a plus player. He's going to go head-to-head with Price tomorrow night. If he gets 2-3 goals, it might tip some votes, cost Carey the Hart. So, and that's a big, strong team that you might also face in the first round.
I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, Price was the odds-on favorite to win. Yeah. But I think Ovechkin's come on. Price has struggled a little bit in the last little while. Not always his fault. You know, for example, the other night, he always talks about guys blocking shots. There was nobody in front of him to block a shot the other night. There were four goals where guys were just left alone in front of the net.
Yeah, discipline has been a problem, and the coach said execution, but discipline in what they do. You look at some of the goals. The dump by Gallagher was a half-assed dump. You should be dumping the puck bench side. Screwed the guys coming on the ice there. Just a lot of miscommunication, a lot of lazy plays, not good positioning. For such a supposedly defensive-oriented team, they were brutal the other night.
Maybe they're running out of gas at this stage of the season. You know, they've worked their asses off all the way to get to 102 points or wherever they're at. It's unbelievable that they've achieved that point total with that roster, as far as I'm concerned.
Lately, P.K. Subban has just been making a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, and that's one of the things we've always known: high risk, high reward. We're seeing more high risk lately.
Maybe he's getting ready for the playoffs. He's a good playoff performer. He elevates his game when the pressure's on.
He better, because it's been sliding lately. My theory on all this is that the Canadiens have a deep, dark, devious plot here, which is to lower expectations in the city, which were through the roof. There was too much pressure, so they're going to stumble into the playoffs. Like, what was it your team did? That was your fault too, right? 86 win.
Oh yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, you had sports columnists talking about Stanley Cup parades. Look where we're at now.
Well, we've had this thing, talk about lowered expectation. I think we've had them all season because the general manager has always said, this is a team in progress. They're talking about this is a young team. I'm not sure whether they're that young anymore, but that's one of the things that I don't think the expectations in the front office, they certainly haven't done anything to increase the expectations.
He's a compulsive tinkerer.
Yes, well, yes, he is. Anyway, we'll take a little break, time for a timeout, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. There's all sorts of possibilities on who the Canadiens might meet in the first round of the playoffs. Let's just go around. Who would you like to see in the first round?
Detroit.
And why?
Detroit, because they've played well with them this year. I think they match up well personnel-wise, and I think Detroit has goaltending issues.
Yeah, I think Detroit has some general. I watched that Ottawa game last night, and they really did not look good. They were lucky to be in it 1-0 until Ottawa tied it. But I'm with Chris. He said a couple weeks ago he doesn't want to play any of the above. So can we get the least for the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, I just think. Like I did as a player, it doesn't matter. You have to beat whoever's in front of you. And I know we can all wish for matchups, this and that. You got to be careful what you wish for. You look at Boston. If say they play Boston the first round, you put all that emotion, that rivalry into that, bad things can happen. Look at the last two series, win 7 games. Bruins win one of them. They go on to win the Stanley Cup last year. Canadiens go to the conference final. But yeah, whoever's there, they're going to have to play well and play their game to beat them. So it doesn't matter to me.
And they'd go in as the favorites, which is an unusual situation against the Bruins. If they blew the first game at the Bell Center, whoa. Shoe goes on the other foot.
They're better off going in as an underdog with Boston. I think your old hometown team is the team that's going to come out of the East.
The Rangers or the Islanders?
The Rangers.
Okay, Rangers. The Rangers do appear like they have the most momentum now. They got Lundqvist back. Not that they were hurting when Cam Talbot was in there.
Yeah, he played well.
I think Tampa Bay is going to win the East.
I think they went into the season as the favorite. They have a young team. The thing that you don't know about that is they're very young. They got a lot of guys whose only playoff experience was that 4-game sweep last year. But I think at the same time they feel, Chris alluded to the fact that they're focused. That sweep is in the back of their minds, and it's focused them on doing a better job this year, and they're going to be more prepared for the playoffs.
I think they will. Again, John Cooper, they're a well-coached team. I like this guy. Seems like the players have a lot of respect for him. They play for him. I like their team, and I'm sure after what happened last year, we're not going to see that again with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
And they've got Brian Boyle, they've got Callahan, there's some veteran experience there to supplement the young guys. Plus, all the young guys are incredibly talented.
Yes, they are. I mean, Tyler Johnson has come out of nowhere. He's injured now, but it looks like he'll be back for the playoffs. And it's amazing that the last month they've had a ton of injuries. And they lost 3 guys just in that second to last game against the Canadiens. They came in the other night with a bunch of guys out of the lineup, but it doesn't seem to make a difference there. Talk about John Cooper, and Max Pacioretty noted that he was a good coach and seemed to get a lot of heat for it. I don't understand. Does anyone understand why?
I don't know. I look at it like people were thinking that he was kind of throwing it in the face of Michel Therrien, which I don't believe at all. I think Max is, in all his interviews, has been upfront and honest. You even look at the Day on A incident with the mayor, how Max come out and defended him. He was very honest and upfront about the way he felt. Just because he said they're a well-coached team. They play one little clip. If you go on later, he said they're like us, and we when we execute well and play well together in the efforts there, we win hockey games.
Maybe it's like when you're walking down the street with your wife, you shouldn't do the old head swivel too often.
Is it a case of, is execution the Canadiens' biggest problem?
Terrio seems to think so. It's every second word out of his mouth, that and focus.
But that has to mean, he says that he has to blame the execution because it's either that or it's his game plan that's screwed up, so he turns to the execution. I don't know. It certainly was the problem against Tampa Bay, and it's actually happened a couple of times in earlier games where they just seem to part up the middle, and that that middle lane is wide open. You could drive a Mack truck through there. I don't get what's happening with that. I totally thought it was Uller's fault, though, and the one that Patterson seems to have gotten blamed for, because you had two guys hitting one guy along the wall, and also I think Eller bumped Patterson a little bit and helped take him out of the play.
Yeah, again, I think it's execution, but this team, I think, down low in their own end, I don't think they're as good as people think they are. Yes, their goals against is really good because of the goaltender is making huge saves night after night. They give up too many opportunities down there, and sooner or later it's going to sneak up and bite them in a big way.
Is the general manager right? Are we still in a transition period? Do we still need bodies that we don't have?
I believe
right now?
so. I think this team needs to be bigger. You look at, I don't think, the only time they sustain a forecheck is when they get the cycle going, they keep their feet moving. But once they get involved in that physical battle, down low in the offensive zone, they end up on the losing end, the puck's the other way. Other teams come in to the Canadiens then, and they sustain a forecheck. Some big guys, Cologne the other night, protecting the puck, hanging on to the puck. When the Canadiens get in that situation in the offensive zone, they can't do it as well as teams do it against them.
Yeah, I said that halfway through the Tampa game. There are two problems. They can't keep the puck in Tampa's zone, and they can't keep it out of their own zone. And it's like you say, they get it in there, and it's going back the other way almost before you can say they've got it down low.
And size remains the issue, eh? I mean, your number 1 and 2 centers, neither one of them is 6 foot.
And the last couple of times they won a Stanley Cup, it's been the goaltending. Can the goaltending carry them this year?
I don't. As things stand now, I don't think so. And 2 weeks ago, I thought maybe Price could get it done, but it just seems like, especially those two top teams, the Rangers and Tampa Bay, they just have too much up front, and they come at you in waves. They seem to have about 102 guys who are 6'3", who can skate like the wind, all playing up front, while the Canadiens have the Dwarves.
Thinking back to the last two cups, I just think the '86 Cup, we had the goaltenders, no question about it, but Serge Savard at the trading deadline, before that, brought in Bobby Smith, which, big sentiment. Honestly, I don't think he gets enough credit. Bobby Smith for really helping that '86 team get over the hump. He was a key guy in us winning the Stanley Cup that year.
I'm sure he got credit from Bobby Smith, though.
Oh, yeah, from Bobby
That's
did.
not an issue.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. That's another wrap. We'll talk to you next week.